Emily Carter did not believe her life would ever surprise her. She was 34, married for 9 years, living in a quiet town in Oregon where mornings smelled like coffee and wet leaves. Her days moved in straight lines: wake up, work from home, cook dinner, wait for her husband to return, sleep. Nothing was wrong, nothing was exciting either. She told herself that peace was enough. Daniel Carter was a good man. He paid bills on time, remembered birthdays, and never raised his voice. He loved Emily in a steady, careful way, like someone protecting something fragile. Their marriage had no sharp edges. Over time, though, it had also lost warmth. Conversations stayed practical. Touch became brief. They lived beside each other more than with each other. Emily noticed the change slowly. It showed up in small moments when Daniel listened but did not hear, when she shared a thought and he replied with a solution instead of understanding. She never blamed him. She blamed time, work, adulthood. She assumed this was what marriage became. Everything shifted the night Daniel told her about Vancouver. He came home later than usual, coat still on, eyes thoughtful. Over dinner, he explained that his company wanted him to lead a long project in Canada. It would mean travel, long stays and weeks away. He spoke carefully, as if the words had weight. "I don't want you to feel alone," he said. "I've been thinking about support while I'm gone." Emily smiled, confused. She had friends, neighbors, a routine. She didn't see the concern. Then Daniel mentioned Michael Reynolds. Michael was an old friend from college, someone Daniel trusted completely. Recently divorced, looking for a fresh start. Daniel suggested he stay in their guest house for a while, help with repairs, be nearby. If Emily needed anything. Emily hesitated. The idea felt strange, but Daniel looked relieved when she nodded. She told herself it was temporary, practical, harmless. Michael arrived 2 weeks later. He was taller than Emily expected, with dark hair touched by early gray. His voice was calm, his smile quiet. He didn't try to charm anyone. He shook Emily's hand politely and thanked her for welcoming him. There was a softness in his eyes that made her feel seen without being examined. From the first day, he kept his distance. He stayed in the guest house, cooked his own meals, and spoke only when spoken to. But when he did talk, he listened fully, not like Daniel, who often glanced at his phone or thought ahead. Michael listened like the moment mattered. Their days crossed naturally. A greeting in the morning, short talk in the yard, shared cup of coffee when the rain wouldn't stop. Emily learned that Michael liked old records and long walks. He learned she loved writing but had stopped years ago. Neither asked why Daniel traveled more often now. Calls became shorter, messages less frequent. Emily filled the space with work and chores, but something had started to wake up inside her. One evening, the power went out during a storm. Emily lit candles and sat in the living room, wrapped in a blanket. Michael knocked gently and asked if she was okay. They sat across from each other, shadows dancing on the walls, the sound of rain filling the silence. They talked not about big things at first, just life, where they grew up, mistakes, choices that felt right at the time. Michael spoke about his divorce without bitterness. He said sometimes people change quietly, and by the time they notice, they're strangers. Emily felt the words land too close to home. As days passed, their conversations grew deeper. They never touched, never crossed a line, but the space between them felt charged, like something waiting. Emily caught herself looking forward to moments she could not explain. She also felt guilt. Daniel trusted her. He trusted Michael. Nothing improper had happened. But Emily knew feelings could be dangerous even without action. She tried to pull back. She spoke less, stayed busy, avoided eye contact. Michael noticed one afternoon. He told her he would be gone for a few days. No reason given. Emily nodded, pretending it didn't matter. But when he left, the house felt empty in a way it never had before. That was when she understood. She wasn't lonely because Daniel was gone. She was lonely because she had been unseen for years. Michael hadn't created the feeling. He had revealed it. When Michael returned, things were different. The air felt heavier, more careful. They spoke less, but felt more. Emily dreamed of conversations. They never had. Michael avoided being alone with her. Daniel called one night, cheerful and tired. He talked about work, about plans, about the future. Emily listened, tears slipping down silently. She realized she didn't know how to say what had changed because she wasn't sure herself. A week later, Emily and Michael stood on the porch at sunset. The sky was wide and quiet. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Michael broke the silence. "Do you ever feel like your life is already decided?" he asked. Emily's heart raced. The question felt dangerous because it was true. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Michael nodded, as if her silence said enough. He wished her a good night and walked away. Emily went inside and closed the door. She leaned against it, breathing hard. In that moment, she accepted the truth she had been avoiding. She had fallen for the man her husband chose to protect her, and nothing would ever feel simple again. Emily Carter never expected spring to feel so heavy. Winter had passed with its quiet snowfalls, and Maplewood was waking up again, but inside her everything was stirred. The truth she had tried to ignore over the past months now pressed on. Her like the early sun on Frostshade was in love with Michael Reynolds, the man her husband had brought into her life. She felt both guilty and alive at the same time. It was confusing, dangerous, beautiful. Daniel was still away in Vancouver. His calls had grown shorter, almost businesslike, and Emily noticed herself hesitating before picking up. She had begun to live in the small moments. Michael allowed her a shared cup of tea, a conversation on the porch, a walk through the neighborhood. Michael had never crossed any boundaries, never tried to take more than was given, and that respect made every glance and word feel infinitely more meaningful. The change in Emily was subtle but visible. Her friends noticed she smiled more, lingered on stories, and even started writing again, filling journals with thoughts and emotions she had kept bottled for years. She was becoming herself again, the self she had set aside for safety, routine, and loyalty. Michael, in his quiet way, reminded her what it was like to be truly seen. It happened one snowy afternoon when Emily had gone to clear the driveway. She slipped on a patch of ice, and before she could even reach out to steady herself, Michael's hand was on her arm, firm but gentle. They both froze for a moment, staring at each other. No words were spoken, and yet everything was said. The air around them shifted. For the first time, Emily realized that what she felt for him was no longer a secret, not even to herself. Michael stepped back immediately, breaking the tension. "I can't do this," he said softly, looking conflicted. "I can't betray Daniel. I won't." Emily shook her head, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "I know," she whispered. "I feel the same way. But it doesn't change. What's here?" A key, she gestured between them to the invisible truth that had been growing for months. Days passed with a strange balance of longing and restraint. Michael continued his work at the house, helping with small repairs, sharing meals, and leaving before anything could be noticed. Emily found herself craving his presence and dreading it at the same time. Every time Daniel called from Canada, she felt a pang of guilt. Every time Michael smiled or listened, she felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. One evening, after a long day, Emily finally confronted the situation. She sat Michael down in the living room, candles flickering around them. "I can't stop feeling this," she admitted, her voice steady but trembling. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but I can't lie to myself anymore. I have to be honest about what I feel." Michael was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head, conflicted. "Emily, you're my friend. I care for you deeply, but Daniel trusts me. I don't want to ruin that trust." Emily leaned forward. "I don't want that either." but I can't go on pretending there's nothing between us. I don't know what to do. I just know that I can't ignore this anymore." Her confession set the tone for the next weeks. She began to reflect on her marriage not as a failure, but as a chapter that had changed. Daniel had given her security and kindness, but it had never fully awakened her heart. Michael had arrived quietly, respecting boundaries, and in the process, it reminded her what it was to feel fully alive and emotionally seen. Daniel came home a month later, arriving in the evening with his usual calm demeanor. Emily had prepared for the moment, but nothing could have readied her for the complexity of his reaction. He hugged her lightly and asked about her days. Emily answered, "Careful." Then she told him everything, the feelings, the bond, the silent longing she had developed. Daniel listened in silence, his face unreadable. He didn't yell, he didn't accuse. Kay merely nodded slowly, processing the truth she had shared. "I chose Michael because I thought he could help you," he said. Finally, his voice quiet. "I didn't think he would show you the things I stopped giving." Emily's chest tightened. She had expected anger, but instead she felt a strange sense of relief. Daniel was hurt, yes, but he was also understanding in a way that surprised her. He had provided her a path to freedom without even realizing it. And that realization made Emily's heart ache with gratitude and sorrow. The following days were tense. Michael had prepared to leave, feeling that his presence was complicating everything. Emily watched him pack, feeling a mix of sadness and urgency. She realized she couldn't let him leave without being honest. "Michael," she called as he lifted the last box. "Wait." He turned, cautious. "Emily, I don't know what the future holds," she said, her voice trembling. "But I want to choose. I want to choose this. Us." Michael's eyes softened, filled with relief and hope. "Only if it's truly your choice," he replied. They didn't rush. There was no dramatic declaration, no sweeping gestures. Instead, they moved carefully, honestly, understanding that love, when earned and chosen freely, was worth patience. Emily began to explore the possibility of a future she had never dared to imagine. Michael stayed, and together they navigated the delicate balance of new love built on respect, trust, and shared longing as spring settled into full bloom. Emily stood on the porch where everything had begun. The flowers were bright, the sky wide, and she felt a quiet strength in herself. She had learned that love could arrive unexpectedly, that it could awaken a dormant heart, and that the most profound relationships were those chosen consciously and freely. Daniel had left, not out of anger, but in understanding. Michael remained, patient and steady, teaching her through his presence that love could be gentle and transformative. Emily realized that the heart's truest desire wasn't always comfort or safety. Sometimes it was the courage to embrace something entirely new. And in that realization, Emily felt fully alive for the first time in years. Her heart had been restless, but now it had found its rhythm. And for the first time, she knew she was choosing her own happiness, and that choice made all the difference.